To recap, I'm your host, John Sarianides, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. John Sapochetti is scheduled to join us. Hopefully, if we can get John on here momentarily, he will be joining us. But until then, you get me and Stone, which is something you're used to. You usually get the two of us at least once a week. Now, for this week, you're going to get us a couple of times a week. But Kevin, day 1 and 2 already in the books. Hard to believe. The NFL draft is almost over. We've got one more day to go, rounds 4 through 7 tomorrow, but through 2 days, it has been a productive 2 days for the New England Patriots. Of course, they took offensive tackle Caleb Lomu last night from the University of Utah, and tonight they made two picks. They took edge Gabe Akis from Illinois, and they also drafted tight end Eli Reardon from Notre Dame. So, John, thank you for joining us. You're on here with us. We just started, so thank you for taking the time. So, Patriots make three selections, and I want to start with Caleb Lomu, who they drafted 28th overall last night in the first round. Of course, Elliott Wolf, apparently he's been left to mind the candy shop. He made two trades up, which is a rarity around here. We're not used to seeing the Patriots trade up in drafts. We usually see them trading down. He traded up last night, traded up tonight. Of course, last night they made a trade with the Buffalo Bills to move up 3 spots to take Caleb Lomu. And Kevin, you and I were there, and I think Wolf summed it up like this: that there was a run on tackles. We wanted one of them. He was the one we wanted. We felt we needed to move and position ourselves to get him. They did that, and they got him. Were you surprised by that pick? I think we all thought going into this draft that they were going to take an edge. Offensive tackle the last couple of weeks was a position that was picking up steam in NFL circles, and the Patriots, they ultimately settle on the offensive tackle. Your thoughts on Caleb Lomu?
I like it, and it's not. Look, I heard a lot of people on the radio today on both stations saying, "Well, you took the seventh tackle out of seven. You still got a tackle, and he needed it."
And
So
that's idiot thinking, and it's not a surprise in this market. But go
correct.
ahead.
No, look, I like his attitude. He's sort of, you see the video of him dancing, and obviously they tell him to do that, but it seems like he's sort of the opposite of Will Campbell until you start to listen to him talk, and they're really the same guy. Same message, I'm willing to die for Drake May, or he didn't say that, but along those
Yeah.
same lines.
These,
Um,
by the way, can these tackles stop telling people they're willing to die? You're not going to die for the quarterback.
correct.
Relax. I would prefer if you said I'm willing to give my all to protect my quarterback or something
Well,
along those lines. But stop with the dying bullshit. No one's
well,
dying here to protect their quarterback.
and to that point, if you're dead, your quarterback's probably dead too.
You're not
So
protecting him anymore.
right. So that's it. Yeah, you're right there. No, look, I like it. It seems like he's the right type of fit for this program, for the team right now. And look, he immediately said he fell in love with Mike Vrabel. Regardless of what you think of what's going on right now, it's sort of a theme with the kids that they've taken so far. Um,
Yeah, we don't want it to be a theme that people are falling in love with him. But anyway, go
well,
ahead.
no, but in terms of wanting to play for the guy, um,
Yeah.
and again, most kids are going to say that anyways, no matter where they go. But it seems like they generally sort of hit it off at their visit or at the 30 visit. And we'll get to the other picks, but they said the same thing tonight and reiterated how much they enjoy being around this staff. So it seems like they've gotten guys that are going to be good fits here. You know this, and John, you know this too. Nobody knows what these kids can really do until you see it in camp, and even then you don't know until you see it in a game. So it feels like they've made good picks so far. And they've hit some needs already, which I think everybody wanted, and we'll see. But for the last 48 hours, feels like they've done a good job.
I think they've done a great job, guys. When you look at it, the three needs that I looked at going into the draft in the first 3 rounds were offensive tackle, edge, and tight end, and they nailed all three of them in terms of selecting those players. I don't know if they've nailed the picks. I mean, we'll find that over the next couple of years. But as far as Caleb Lamu, you look at him. He played at Utah. He had 42 starts in 3 years. That's a major program. He's going to come out of there very well coached. The size is terrific. He can probably put on another 5 to 7 pounds. And when you look at this, guys, he's 21 years old. Will Campbell just turned 22 years old. So they've got two young, athletic tackles that they can really build with and go from there. And as far as Will Campbell, if anyone knows what he's going to be going forward, then give me the lottery number for tomorrow, because we don't know. But I think the three of us, along with John Lyons, were probably like the four guys in the market that talked about Will Campbell as a work in progress. And I thought he was playing fine till he got injured in Cincinnati. And then after that, he probably should have never come back. But because they're in Super Bowl contention, he rushes back, and he was never quite the same. So I'm optimistic that they're in good shape at both tackle positions for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I like the Caleb Lomu pick. I was steadfast on them drafting an edge, and ultimately, to their credit, they read the board right. They saw that that some of those guys were going to slip into the second round, and they knew that there was going to be a run on those guys, and they took the chance, even though they probably had 4 or 5 guys on their board at edge that they liked. They rolled the dice and they said, you know what? We feel that offensive tackle is a more pressing need for us. He's the only guy left on the board. They obviously had him high on their board. As Wolf said last night, they had him as a first round talent on their board. They made the move up to get him, and they went out and they got him. Now, look, we could sit here and start to debate. He played left tackle at Utah. 3 years, 2-year starter, made 22 starts, also played in 5 other games. He was a left tackle in those 22 starts, okay? We could sit here now and start the conversation. Is he your left tackle of the future? Does Will Campbell move to guard? Blah, blah, blah. We don't need to have that conversation right now. The Patriots themselves aren't going to have it. We don't need to have it. We need to give Will Campbell another year at left tackle. Wolf did come out last night and say he's our left tackle. So he put that to bed pretty quick. Lomu, as it stands right now, is probably your swing tackle. He'll probably fill that Thayer Munford role from last year, where he'll play in those 6 offensive line packages, their Rhino package. He'll move around. They'll do different things with him. They'll try to rep him as much as possible in camp and during the preseason. But in the end, he's really going to marinate this year. He's going to redshirt, if you will, and he's really your 2027 starting right tackle. I don't see Morgan Moses here beyond that. They did sign him to a 3-year, $24 million deal. There's a chance he walks away after next year. Who knows? We don't know what he's going to do. It appears he's coming back. By all accounts, he was at voluntary workouts this week. But I like this pick from a developmental standpoint, too, because you're talking about a guy that's almost 6'7", 313 pounds. He has room where he can add another 5 to 8 pounds, play at around 318, 320. He can easily play right tackle. Biggest thing with him is, and I think a lot of people misconstrued what I meant by this last night. When I say he's undersized in terms of his girth, his thickness. He's not undersized height-wise. He's undersized in terms of his thickness. He needs to put on a few more pounds and play a little heavier and play a little stouter. When you watch him as a run blocker, when you're asking him to get on a vertical double on a guy, get to the second level, he doesn't get that kind of movement that you want on the first level. When you're asking him to drive block, whether it's an inside or outside drive block a guy on tape, you see that he does struggle there. Where he excels is lateral movement and second level movement. You watch him on those reach blocks on that outside zone, he can cover a guy up. He can run his feet laterally and get outside on a guy. He can get outside on a guy on scoop blocks and get to the second level. He can do all those things. His bread and butter is going to be pass pro. He, in my opinion, was the best pass blocking offensive tackle in this class. He has really good feet. He times his hands well. He has a good punch. He does a really nice job of resetting on his power step on a secondary move and getting back inside. He does a really nice job in pass pro. That's his bread and butter. And to be honest with you guys, as much as we don't want to have the left tackle conversation right now, a year from now, we might be having that conversation because, yes, they drafted him to be their future right tackle, but he has the look. And when you watch him fundamentally on tape, he plays like a left tackle. He may end up being your left tackle long term. Again, I'm not trying to start that conversation now, but I have a feeling a year from now we'll be having it.
So let me ask you this. Using a first round pick on a guy that you basically just said is going to redshirt, can they afford to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The reason they can afford to do it, Kevin, is it's a premium position. Offensive tackles are hard to come by. And as much as people shit on this draft this year and the level of talent, the reality is you had 7 offensive tackles go in the first round. That's not going to be the case every year. On average, you usually have about 4. And then within those 4, you usually have a couple that are high-end top 10 guys, which you had in this class and in this draft. But when you have a run like that and you have 7 of them go, you need to take one. If it means you don't fill another need and he has a year to develop, remember, to Sap's point, I mean, he's only 21 years old. So you can take your time with him. You're going to get the 5th-year option with him eventually. Let him grow and develop. It's okay that they took him now. Remember, the draft isn't about just drafting for immediate need. It's also drafting for future need. That's what they did here.
When you look at their offensive line at this point, and I'm just going to throw this out there, probably 20% chance that this could happen. It's apparent that A.J. Brown is going to come here. I mean, the Eagles are just like drafting receivers, trading for receivers, signing free agent receivers. You would think A.J. Brown certainly is going to get traded, and this is the lead contender to get A.J. Brown. If that's the case, and there seems to be some money issue, could you see the Patriots moving on from Michael Onwenu and maybe with Caleb Lomu, who's talked about it last night, he's willing to play guard if necessary, that could be something that happens sooner rather than later?
I don't do that. I don't play him at guard. I don't think he's a guard.
Mm-hmm.
He's a tackle. And look, I can look at an offensive lineman and tell you where they're going to play in their career in 2 seconds. He is not a guard. And I know Wolf talked about that last night, and I kind of put it on him a little bit at the end. I said, even at 6'6" and a quarter, you think he can play inside? Because that's a little long. Not that you can't get a guard that's 6'6", 6'7" inside, but that build is not a guard build, man. You do not waste that body type, with all due respect to all those guards out there, and I love you guys, but the fact is you don't waste 6'6" and a quarter, 313 pounds at guard with that athleticism and that ability to move and play in space. F that. He's a tackle. At minimum, he's your right tackle. But long term, you could be looking at your potential left tackle with him. Again, that body type, that skill set profiles more as a left tackle. He's not playing guard. I don't buy that for 1 second. Unless somehow you get this dude up to 325, 330, he's not playing guard. And even then, I'm not wasting that athleticism by making him fatter. I'm just not going to do it. 5 pounds is one thing. I'm not putting 20 pounds on him. So screw that.
He said he played at 307, right? I believe
Yeah.
it's the last time.
He's the heaviest he's ever been in his career right now.
Yeah. The other thing I think fans should be most excited about with him is, I forget who asked him, but it's just the usual question to explain what kind of player you are. And I think he said it 2 or 3 times. He pointed out his instincts and his smarts. So whether he's the physical tools are there yet, that can be worked on. But if he already has the mental side, well, he's already ahead of the game then.
100%. But I do think it's important to point out here, he's still a young player. I mean, yes, he was a 2-year starter, 22 starts. He did play in 5 games in 2023, 27 total appearances in college, but he's still a young player age-wise. You're talking about a kid who has a ways to go in his development, and I would not rush that right now. You don't need to. You're in a pretty good spot. You have Morgan Moses back. You have Onwenu back for another year. I wouldn't dick around with him playing guard. He's a tackle. Let him grow and develop there.
Yeah, and again, you mentioned the age. He won't be 22 to the end of this season. Will Campbell just turned 22 in January. So these are really young players who aren't at their peak right now, physically, mentally, the experience, the reps that they're going to need to take over the next year, and we'll see them grow as a pair. And again, I'm always all about protecting the quarterback, and I think they're in pretty good shape at that position for the foreseeable future, like I said earlier.
And just on the youth thing too, it probably doesn't mean a ton, but he's 21 and he's married. Like, I feel like that's a mature kid. You hope coming in too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%. And I mean, again, that's part of the Utah Mormon culture out there. But no, that's a huge part of it. I mean, he's settled. You know what I mean? And so obviously, in order to be in that situation, you have to be mature. And he's obviously, based on our conversation with him last night, he seemed like a very mature young man. And that's part of the reason why I asked him about Kyle Whittingham and playing for Kyle Whittingham at Utah, because when we think of Mike Vrabel, he's an alpha and he's got that presence as a head coach. Well, Kyle Whittingham's that same guy. He's not physically the same size as Vrabel, but he exudes that alpha. He's got the hair. He's this in shape man with that look on his face. He looks like a football coach. That's why, as an Ohio State fan, I wasn't crazy about him ending up in Michigan. I think that's a great hire for them. But he talked about playing for somebody that's got that alpha personality in college. and going on now to play for someone like that in the NFL, it's not going to be a big adjustment for him. Nothing? Okay.
I was just waiting to go in order, so I want to be respectful here.
Nothing. So no comments on the Alphas. Good.
You summed it up, but for sure, that's obviously a part of it. And Whittingham's one of the best coaches in college football. That program, for the last 5-6 years, maybe even longer, has been one even longer than that's been one of the most respected programs in all of college football. They're always kind of there, almost like the Gonzaga of college basketball. They're just always in contention. Maybe not good enough to break through and win a national championship for sure, but that's a solid program.
Yeah, just
go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was gonna say you talked about this last night, and I think you tweeted about it earlier on, and we'll get to it with Akis too. Guys that have played all 4 years, well, not all 4 years, but stayed in one spot. I think it's huge, and more so with Akis than Nomu, just because he's a younger guy. But those guys that stay there and are staying loyal to their programs, I think there's something to be said for that too.
Well, isn't it interesting? And I was going to wait until after we talked about Akis and Reardon before I came back to that point, but we might as well do it now since you brought it up. I spoke to somebody this spring who said to me that there is about 7 or 8 teams around the league that are going to place a premium on stability and guys playing in 1 or 2 schools, preferably 1. And he said, don't be surprised if the Patriots are one of those teams. Well, let's see. 3 picks in. Caleb Lomu only played at Utah. Gabe Akis only played at Illinois. Eli Reardon only played at Notre Dame. So whatever I was told this spring is true. Now, the interesting thing is, you and I were both there on Tuesday, Stone. I asked Vrabel about the portal, and I asked him about how they're going to approach, how do they evaluate guys that have been in the portal, and he gave me the answer that he gave me, and I'll leave it at that. But I get it. You don't want to show your hand, but clearly what I was told by my source is true, at least through 3 picks, that they are valuing guys that played at one place, that developed at that place, and have a lot of experience playing at that school and in those systems. They showed it tonight by drafting Akis and Reardon. Akis, when you look at him, and I'll use this as a starting point with him, played in Illinois for 4 years, played in 50 consecutive games there, 4-year starter. That carries a lot of weight, and clearly it did with the Patriots.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure it's a loyalty thing. It's just an experience thing, right? Like you want a guy.
Well, I think it's an experience thing, but I think it's a stability thing. Because here's the thing, Kevin. These coaches could sit there and bullshit us until they're blue in the face. But at the end of the day, it is going to become increasingly harder to evaluate guys that played at multiple schools because production's not going to matter anymore in this new world. What's going to matter is you're going to evaluate the talent. You're going to project as to what they could be. If you care about production and body of work, you're gonna spend your time looking at those 1-2 school guys because they had stability during their college career.
So on the flip side of that, and then John Sapp, I'll let you go in a second. Wouldn't you think that they would maybe be more interested in how a guy picks up a newer playbook? Like I know what you're saying, but in terms of that adaptability, I feel like that should matter too, no?
No, I don't think that matters to them because regardless of how many schools they played at, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, they're going to have to learn their offense, their defense. So I don't think that matters to them. I think what matters to them is they want guys that, and every program in the NFL, every coach, every organization wants this. They want guys that love football. But within that idea, that concept, you want guys that are going to show you they love football. And one of the ways they're going to show you they love football is that they're going to play at 1, maybe 2 schools. Okay. If you're evaluating a guy, and I'm not saying they should be disqualified and you shouldn't draft him, but if you're evaluating a guy that's on his 4th school before he comes to you, well, that if it were me, I'd be like, all right, dude, what's the deal here? Are you just chasing the almighty dollar? Why are you bouncing around from school to school? That to me is a red flag. And I've said that from the beginning, that the portal will have a negative effect on the NFL draft process because if you're these organizations, you're going to look at these guys and you're going to say, do I want to draft a guy that has gone to 4 different schools in 5 years, let's say, doesn't know what the hell he wants. He's changed majors 4 separate times. How can I count on that guy? How can I depend on that guy for my organization to have success? It's a red flag. You can't.
Kevin, you're the writer here. How about the word, if it exists, stick to itness? I
Yeah,
think it's
so
a word, right? Yeah,
no,
I think that's your point. Yeah.
yeah, no, you're right. And to that point, now these kids aren't even fighting through adversity. So back to your original point, John Sarianides, yeah, you need to see a kid that can fight through adversity. Maybe he's a third stringer, or is he going to fight for that job or not? So I get what you're saying. I just thought maybe that adaptability would come into play, but obviously the character part plays. It's a bigger factor.
Yeah. And I think it goes beyond that. I think, again, what it shows is in the case of a guy like Gabe Akis, what it says that this is a guy that program has had its ups and downs at Illinois. Brett Bielema has done a really good job there the last 3 years resurrecting it. But I think what it says is that this is a guy that he's going to weather the storm. He's going to stick with it regardless of what's going on around him. He's going to focus on himself, his game, and how he can be the best version of himself. He's going to do whatever it takes to win, and he's going to be a team first guy, but he's going to control the things he can control. And the performance of the team as a whole, he might not be able to control, but he stuck it out and did what he needed to do to be a positive part of a turnaround. And I think that matters as much as we focus so much on physical traits and 40 times and benches and verts and scheme fits. The reality is these are still people. And the kind of people they are and how they fit into your organization culturally matters. And I think last night and tonight, what you saw is you saw the Patriots value stability, loyalty, guys that are going to stick with it regardless. You can look at Eli Reardon. He's got an injury history, but he stayed at Notre Dame. He didn't decide, okay, I got hurt. I may end up losing my starting job or losing my opportunity. Screw this place. I'm going to go somewhere else. No, he valued the Notre Dame education. He valued playing for Marcus Freeman, and he stuck it out. And I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters. I think that matters to NFL teams is that these guys played at one place and they went through adversity and they overcame it.
Yeah, you could look back to the 2025 draft, right? I mean, Will Campbell played strictly at LSU, Travion Henderson, strictly Ohio State. So it seems to be a theme for the Patriots. As you said, John, if there's 6, 8 teams in the league that really put a premium on players that played at one school, Patriots sure sound like they're using that as their MO.
Yeah, 100%. Now, in the case of Gabe Akis, he's been linked to them all spring. Talking to people in the scouting world, they all said the same thing to me. I mean, Zion Young, Akis, Malachi Lawrence, those are their guys. Those are the guys that they like physically. They were never in on the 6'2" speed guys. And I know that was put out there by them. And again, shame on certain people in our industry who took the bait because I'm like, that's not their prototype. Those aren't the guys they want to play with on the edge. I never believed that our Mason Thomas or Cassius Howell or any of these guys were coming here. I always felt that because the Patriots, as much as pass rush matters, they place a premium on guys that can play 3 downs and do it from a variety of alignments. At least this regime does. So I never believed that those guys were in the mix. I always felt Lawrence, Young, Akis, these were guys that they were going to target. They get Gabe Akis, a guy that, like I said, they've been tied to all spring, guy that they like a lot. There's obviously a lot of Patriot connections there. And when you look at him, fellas, 6'3¼ 260 pounds. He is an all-effort, high-motor guy. I said that in my little breakdown as well in my scouting report on him. He's not a guy that does anything great, but he does a lot of things well. Plays with heavy hands, can set an edge, can be a little bit better against the run. He does tend to eat double teams too much at times and get displaced. And he doesn't always get off single blocks on a consistent basis, but he is heavy-handed. He will set an edge. He plays with a lot of effort. And then as a pass rusher, he plays like his hair's on fire. He gets after it. Good first step. He's a guy that can win with speed, but he can also convert speed to power and win on a bull rush. So when you look at him, he is exactly what they like there. I know there's been some comps out there to Matthew Judon, and I think they're warranted. Judon, though, is a better athlete, better pass rusher. But this guy, I think, is a more complete player. Patriot fans are going to love Gabe Akis.
Well, and he's the one that said he compared himself to Judon. I believe Alex Barth asked him, who he modeled his game after, and playing for Brett Bielema, he said they watched a lot of Patriots film. So that's a good thing to know too. Just he's already sort of familiar with sort of what to expect coming here, I guess. Obviously, different coaching staff at the time, but I'm curious about that Judon thing though. If he's saying that, is that just sort of is that technique wise, or is that just motor? Is that just sort of the whole package he's comparing himself to?
Style of play,
Yeah.
style of play. But Akis is thicker. I think he's a little bit of a different player. I don't think he's better against the run. Even though if you look at his body of work, he was a better pass rusher than run defender. But I think he is thicker. I think he's better against the run. I think he's stouter. He'll hold up more in terms of setting an edge off tackle. So while yes, there's some comparisons to their game, outside of the measurables, they're pretty much the same size. I don't exactly think they're the same player.
And you talk about coming from successful programs. Illinois was actually favored over Indiana in week 1 last year. That was considered not an upset, but a mild surprise that Indiana beat Illinois last year. Illinois was expected to be a top 10 team last year. But again, you're coming from a program that's had some success.
I also may be overthinking it. How much does competition come into play?
It matters. I mean, the
Yeah.
higher the competition,
It's the first thing I thought of.
in a lot of ways, the higher the competition. If you played in the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, it matters. It certainly does, especially when you're evaluating guys from mid-majors. But all that being said, a football player is a football player. That's only going to be part of the evaluation process. You're obviously going to look at other areas as well.
Yeah, no, it's the first thing I thought of, especially with Vrabel being an Ohio State guy. You go grab a Big Ten kid, he's got to like what he sees on film, just in terms of that environment.
Yeah, and again, I love what I see on tape with him. I mean, his name came across. I came across his name as a guy that the Patriots really liked really early. Like I think in January, I heard his name as being a name to keep an eye on for the Patriots. And then the more I got to know him and I watched some film on him, then you see the Bielema connection. You put that together. James White was on that staff last year. He's worked with Joe Kim. You're like, all right, these aren't Vrabel connections, but they're Patriot connections. So he has an understanding of the organization. And then, of course, when you see that they brought him in here a couple weeks ago on that top 30 visit, and from what I had heard, that top 30 visit went really well. And I know that there were some other members in the local media. Phil Perry talked a lot about him as well. So I think a lot of people talking in the draft community, I think a lot of people felt that he was a guy that the Patriots were really keen on. Now, they did roll the dice because they went with Lomu last night, and everybody knew there was going to be a run on edge guys in round 2, and that run happened. He snuck through, and they were able to move up and get him at 55. Now, had they not moved up, I don't think they get him. He doesn't get to them at 63. So I think ultimately they had to move up to get him. And again, kudos to Elliott Wolf, right? You let him mind the candy shop, and he ends up, doing a really good job being aggressive, anti-Patriot in many ways in terms of trading up. We didn't think they were going to be aggressive in terms of trading up. We thought they might trade down, but he's done a great job of gauging where the board is, looking at their board, identifying the players they want, and positioning themselves to get them.
Well, do you think it has just been him? Vrabel was there last night and tonight.
He was. Yes, no, it's not just him. You're right.
Yeah, okay.
It's Vrabel, it's Ryan Cowden,
Okay.
it's Alonzo Highsmith,
Yeah.
who we congratulated last night, and it's his lookalike in the security department.
I can't believe I said, Sap, I
Dude, I'm the asshat who walked up to him. Great pick. And then you come over, congratulations. And the guy's like, what are you talking about? And I looked at him, I'm like, that's the Alonzo Highsmith clone. Yeah, have a good night. And we took
It was
off.
just security guard, Sap. That's it.
Really? That close?
Oh, yeah. He
Wow.
looks just like him.
That's
It happens when you leave there at midnight.
Guy's like, what are they talking about? But no, I'm a big fan of the Gabe Akis pick. I look, I've said it now since last season that they're a third guy short at edge. He fills that need.
Well, they have Draymond Jones now, too. That's a good one at 1-2.
Yeah, and Harold Landry still.
Yeah.
Huge fan of the Draymond Jones signing. Big, strong guy who played some inside, played tackle on occasions. He's been on a lot of teams. I saw 3 full games.
He's a defensive tackle at Ohio State.
Right, yeah. And now he's able to play on the edge. Big, strong body. I saw 3 of his games last year. He spent a lot of time in the backfield of the Cincinnati Bengals in their 2 games, and I think he played pretty well against the Patriots. So I love that signing because that's a guy. I think it's an upgrade from Chase on. I think it really is. I think it's an upgrade.
And of course, with their second pick tonight in the 3rd round, pick 95, the Patriots select Notre Dame tight end Eli Reardon, a guy who I think if you talk to people around the scouting community and you talk to people around the NFL, there was this universal opinion of him. And our good buddy Eric Galco, who runs the East-West Shrine Game, tweeted about this tonight. And I couldn't agree with Eric more. He really is the one guy in this tight end class that really profiles as a future Y, a guy that if you could put 10, 12 pounds on him and really work him as an inline guy, he can develop into that guy and yet still be a guy a la a Hunter Henry that you can move around in formations, whether you line him up in a slot, you split him out as a wing, you can use him as a move Y. There's a lot of different things you could do with him. Notre Dame did a lot of that stuff with him. Of course, Kevin, you and I got a firsthand look at him last year when we covered Notre Dame at BC. I was really impressed with him. And the thing that I love about him is the wide catch radius. He's a plus route runner. He can create separation on breaks. And he's a guy that's got some quickness to him after the catch where he can extend plays and separate. Now, here's the thing. The injury history is a concern. That's something certainly that's worth keeping an eye on. The other thing is it's easier to say you can make someone a Y and then watching them become a Y and becoming an inline tight end. He has a lot of work to do in that area. He's got to be more willing to get in there and dig guys out. He's got to be more of a natural bender. He doesn't bend naturally. He tends to play a little tall. He has a lot of experience as a wing coming back and blocking back on guys and arc releasing on guys. But you want to see what he can do as a true Y. And I think that's going to be the focal point for me with him this spring. And then when we get into training camp, I want to see how he adjusts to playing inside because long-term, that's what he's going to be.
To your point on the injuries, Elliot Wolf said tonight that Jim Whalen, the head trainer, and obviously the entire staff is going to go through it, but he said there's no concerns. I believe that was the exact quote. So if there's no concerns, this feels like an old school Belichick type of pick where you're picking for value now. Obviously the guy is a talented player, but, maybe some people or some teams sort of shot away from him. And now you just hit a home run, not by accident, but, you got lucky for the most part by doing your due diligence. So, and look, they moved up to get him. So obviously they felt like they needed him at that spot. I think they moved up like 7 spots. They were at 60, or they traded 63. They were on that back end. But I'm thinking it's 95.
Well, they got him in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I'm all confused. But
you were thinking about Akis.
Yes, but they moved up significantly towards the end of the night to get this kid. He had 3 for 59 against BC, but he got open a lot. I remember looking at you, being like, "Wow, that kid's open." Just looking above from up top. So, and before we came on, I said to you, he looks like a receiver. To your point, he can gain weight, which is something Elliot Wolf also talked about with all 3 of those guys tonight. But it feels like an old school, not we're smarter than you type of pick, but it's a good value for them where they got him.
If they need to add weight, they can just hang around me for about 3 weeks and they'll reach their weight without an issue. Just spending time with me going to lunch every day will get that weight on them. The important part, too, is I love the way they were so aggressive in moving up. That's what you have to do. You see a player that you target, that you like, and you're concerned that he's not going to be there with your original pick, you move up. The Patriots did that, and it shows an aggressiveness and going to get the guys that they're really, really high on. And also, again, I'm a big believer in schools producing positions. We know Penn State's linebacker U. Notre Dame's produced quite a bit of tight ends. I mean, I'm by far the oldest guy on this show right now, but go back to Mark Bavaro and Ken McAfee, were both stud tight ends from this area. It's a school that's produced tight ends. It seems like, every other year there's a Notre Dame tight end getting drafted at some point.
Yeah. Yep.
I think the other thing too is, if you remember when they drafted Jimmy G and they kind of pushed Brady for 3 years, he got 3 Super Bowls out of it. Hunter Henry's obviously on the back end and he knows it. Maybe this pushes him a little bit. He's been kind of quiet as a receiver the last couple of years, I think. So
but he's also in the last year of his contract. So
that too. Yeah,
if it motivates him, it'll only be for a year because realistically speaking, they're probably
fair.
Again, I don't know anything internally, but my guess is they're probably not going to re-sign him. If you had to guess, who knows? Obviously, I would think he wants to keep playing. If he does, they could potentially have that conversation.
Would you guys be surprised if they draft another tight end? Because Vrabel's talked about the depth of the tight end group and also the fact that Daniel Jeremiah said you might have 20 to 25 tight ends drafted on day 3. I would think they take a flyer on another tight end at some point on Saturday.
I think it depends if they keep their picks.
I was just saying, selfishly, just the name that popped in my head is Jeremiah Franklin. If you are going to do it, why not? Just a local guy.
Well, I think if they take another one, he'll be that type of player. He'll be a
Yeah.
move you, that undersized 6'3", 6'4", 235, 240, 45-pound guy. I think that's what they would do. It's a deep group. There isn't a ton of talent. If I were them, believe it or not, I would target someone like Tanner Koziel out of Houston, another big 6'6", 6'7" body that you can put some weight on and see if you can turn him into a Y. Let him and Reardon compete and see who can develop into your future wide tight end. I mean, I know in this system, right, they're more than likely going to, just like they did in 2010 with Gronkowski and Hernandez, they're more than likely going to target that move you, as I mentioned earlier. But why not take a flyer on a guy like a Koziel as well, or a Miles Killsman from Tennessee, somebody like that that's a big tight end that can come in and compete for potentially a starting job in 2027. So we'll see. Good friend of the show, Scott, checks in. What are you guys doing up this late? Talking draft, my man. And Stone and I still have some content to produce tonight before we go to bed. So we got to give the people what they want. I mean, I've been covering this shit for 26 years. So, I mean, people are counting on us to give them some information, and we're going to do that. By the way, everybody in our market has done a fantastic job with the draft coverage this weekend. But I'll say this, and maybe it's just my arrogance for doing this for 26 years, but I'd put our coverage up against anybody's. We might not have the fancy graphics and the budget that some of these other places have, but content-wise, we're as good, if not better than anybody. So is this first-round pick a replacement for Campbell? No. He is not a replacement for Campbell, but let's see how Big Willie does this season, and the conversation might change.
Well, I was just going to say, it's worth pointing out, within seconds of this pick last night, you said the conversation was going to start. So I'll give you the credit there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was really impressive. And maybe I'm just an old romantic at heart, but that Will Campbell text to Lomu like moments after he was drafted, I thought was really cool. I really did. I mean, it's just, you could see that these are two guys that are probably going to bond. And I know we're kidding about the fact that they're saying they're going to die for Drake May, but when you have that mentality, at least that they want to protect the franchise quarterback, that's a good start, because you've seen teams before where the offensive lineman may not necessarily jive with the quarterback. It seems like Drake May is that guy that those 5 guys in front of him love him and want to defend him. And I just thought it was a really, really good thing that Will Campbell texted right away to Lomu and congratulated him and welcomed him.
Yeah. I don't give a shit. Love that they added protection for the kid. He deserves it. Yeah. Every quarterback deserves it, Scott. Every quarterback does. Even if he's a douchebag, he still deserves it, because without one that can stand upright and throw the football and make plays for you, you can't win. So, yeah, I don't get all teary-eyed about him sending him a text. I mean, it's what a good teammate should do, I suppose.
So I was going to say, to Sap's point, though, he didn't necessarily have to do it. And look, I know he's only a second-year guy, so he's not going to stir shit, but he could look at him as his replacement, theoretically. So to Sap's point, it is a nice little gesture. It's not.
Oh, yeah.
It is what it
absolutely. Is. It is. But that's all it is. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, they have a job to do, and that's to protect the quarterback, and that's to open up their first order of business is to open up running lanes for the running backs. Their second order of business is to protect the quarterback, even in that league. Okay, so they have a job to do. They have to take care of their running backs and their quarterback. So,
okay, Rex Ryan.
All right, Mr. G. Fetty checks in. I was disappointed in not getting McNeil Warren and getting Eli instead. I get we need to, but why not sign Njoku? Oh, he's still out there, and they still might.
Contract
control. I didn't get the love affair with McNeil Warren or Thieneman. Is safety a potential need for them? Sure. Is it enough of a need that you were going to completely go off the board and take one of those guys in round 1? I don't think so. Not in my opinion. I mean, you signed Byard, you have Woodson, you have Pettis. They've got enough bodies there for at least next season. Um,
They're built.
Stowers, again, though, I will say, Mr. G. Fetty, and I had them taking him 2 in my last mock. The only thing is, I liked Stowers as a move view, but he's not a wide. I think they were dead set. And this is why I picked Reardon in our Patriots Pulse mock draft, because I think they were dead set on finding a guy that could play the wide. That's not Eli Stowers. He's going to be a move you second tight end, a guy that you can displace at formations.
On the Njoku thing, real quick, he costs money. At least for the rookie tight end, you got 5 years now. 5 years of cheap
4
control.
years. You got 4 years.
4 years of cheap control, though. So I think that, to your point, I think they could still, you know this, I wanted Njoku early on in the offseason. But again, I think that contract really plays a factor too.
Well, I mean, and the longer he stays on the market, the cheaper you're going to get him. So they can play the waiting game with him, and somebody's going to sign him before camp. I mean, it's a fait accompli. Shows Campbell is open to whatever happens. Yes, I'm sure that he's super excited about Lomu in 2 years, kicking him inside the guard and playing left tackle. We'll see if he's texting him then. Let's see. Mr. G. Fetty says exactly. He says makes sense, I guess. Yeah, I think that their whole thought process was, I think at that position they wanted more of a wide type, which is what Reardon profiles as, than Stowers. So we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping Hunter Henry sends Reardon a text to welcome him to the team. Apparently that shit's important now. So, send him a text, see what happens. Hey buddy,
Well,
give him a little heart emoji.
You're working with a couple of Italian Americans. We're very, very sensitive and we're heartwarming, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the next thing on that list is full of shit.
I found that out last night in spades, but yeah, for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Stone and I are very aware of what you dealt with last night.
Yes.
Stone, in fact, has covered that event, and he knows exactly.
I forgot about that. I won't say a word, but yes.
Yes.
I thought I was in a Fellini film, to be honest with you, or at least like The Sopranos' Last Supper. It was interesting.
Yeah.
But I made a new good friend, Matt Sluka. Great kid.
Yeah, Sap got to meet Sluka last night.
Great kid, man.
Oh man,
one of the best kids I've ever covered.
Oh man, I'm ready to do a podcast with him. He's so natural answering questions. We had to do the interview twice because of the background noise, and he's willing to play any position. He very, very impressive, like you said, Kevin. He seems like a dynamite kid. John, you said the same. Yeah,
he is. Yep, he is. But background noise and New England Football Journal go hand in hand. They're synonymous with
especially in my case, when you're treated like a second class or third class citizen, that's what's going to happen. The restless are on microphone when I'm trying to do some interviews, not quite like
no.
the hottie from channel wherever that got all the first interviews. But so what?
Yeah.
I'm not bitter.
Hey, it is what it is. Bottom line is Patriots have had 2 good nights in the 2026 NFL draft, and we hope they have another strong day tomorrow. Again, rounds 4 through 7 are tomorrow. Of course, we'll have full coverage of all 4 rounds. And when it comes to the Patriots, and of course, we'll be keeping an eye on the local products. I think tomorrow, Kevin, we'll see our guys, Jude Bowery. I think he goes tomorrow. I think Lewis Bond goes late tomorrow. Q Hutchins potentially. Skylar Bell. I will say this. I was steadfast. I thought for sure he would have been a second, maybe third round pick. He doesn't go. I think he's off the board before the end of the 4th round tomorrow. I still think he's going to go earlier than later tomorrow. Hey man, listen, if the Patriots are going to take a receiver, I know sometimes we can be annoying with our pushing the local prospects, but he's a guy that's worth pushing in my opinion. He's still on the board. And of course, keep an eye on Joe Fagnano. Patriots have been linked to him. Perhaps he could be the quarterback they take late. We suspect that they will take a quarterback tomorrow at some point or later on today. It's actually past midnight. So we'll see. All right, gentlemen, final thoughts here before we wrap it up.
John, go ahead.
Just for personal knowledge, you guys know this a lot more than I. You covered him. Skylar Bell, can he play slot?
Yes.
Okay.
He can play all 3. He can play X. I think he can play the X from the 30 to the 30. But I think the Z, the F, yes, he offers alignment versatility. He's a sub 4.4 guy, plus hands, terrific route runner, creates separation on breaks. Listen, I know we could be biased towards the local kids because we cover them, but you know what? That's why we're biased, because we've seen them at practice. We've seen how hard they work. We get to know them, so we want the best for them.
Yeah, I mean, ditto for Lewis Bond. Patriots had him in the
Great
last
kid.
week. Patriots had him in for a visit last week. I was told it was close to 2 hours. And obviously, we had also seen them talking to him a bunch at Pro Day. Now, obviously, it's a lot easier there, but I generally believe Josh McDaniels could get awfully creative with them if he got a shot here. They don't have a fourth round pick. Before we go, do either of you see them trading up to get back into the fourth round tomorrow? 'Cause I
Yes,
kinda
they do. They still have the 3 6s,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they could potentially use those to potentially maybe get it back into the bottom
yeah.
of the 4th round. But yes, I
Ultimately,
could see them trying to get back in.
yeah, ultimately, I think you still need a quarterback, linebacker, to Seth's point, maybe another tight end, and I think you got to go another receiver, if not two.
Yeah.
I love the
Yeah.
aggressiveness of this approach. I really do. This is what you do when you're serious,
Well, and this is also what you do when you're a contender. This is
right?
what contenders do, right? When you're rebuilding a franchise, when you're in the middle, you tend to play things closer to the vest. You tend to stick and pick more. Maybe you trade down to add more capital. But when you're a contender or you view yourself as a contender, you tend to be more aggressive and you move up. And that's what they've done the last 2 nights. And you'll love to see it. And, I've had a couple people say to me, well, the reason they're doing it is they're trying to deflect attention from. No, they're not. They're not. That's not their plan. They're not sitting there going, how can we deflect attention away from a situation that has nothing to do with football? It's not related to what's going on this weekend. How do we deflect attention away from that? Let's trade up and no, that's not why they're doing it. They're identifying players that they like and they're going up and getting them. So people need to stop saying stupid shit. Um, let's see. Scott checks in. By the way, your coverage kicks ass. I can interact. Thanks, guys. Scott, thank you, man. We really appreciate you and appreciate your time as always, my friend. And Mr. Giffetti checks back in. Do you guys potentially see them trading Booty for a fourth? It's interesting
I
because
forgot all about that.
yeah, a friend of mine brought that up tonight, and I think that's. I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Giffetti. That's a possibility too. That's a great point. That potentially you put him out there, especially it looks like AJ Brown's coming after June 1st. He's probably expendable. Maybe you get that fourth, you recoup it with him. So
For sure.
we'll see. Yeah. And I know some people have openly wondered why trade Keyshawn Booty. Do you need to trade him? Well, I think once you acquire AJ Brown, there's going to be an odd man out, possibly two, if you can get something in return, especially because he's going into the final year of his deal. You move him tomorrow, you recoup that 4th round pick. Listen, if I'm a team out there that is looking at this board, and by the way, a record number of receivers have been drafted in this draft through 3 rounds. But if I'm a team out there that is looking at the receiver group that's left, and I feel that I can contend next year, why not bring in a Keyshawn Booty, a guy who, by the way, early on in his LSU career was projecting as a possible 1st round pick. Why not take a flyer on him? He's been really good the last 2 years. I think he has 10 touchdowns in the last 2 years. He's been pretty good. So you know what? Take a flyer on him. Take a chance. Couple of more comments coming in here real quick, guys. Fun show. You on tomorrow night after the undrafted players are selected? Yeah,
Probably,
we're gonna
right?
try to be. We're on Sunday morning for sure for Patriots Pulse. So we're gonna figure out tomorrow night. But Peter, thank you for checking in, man. Really appreciate the good words. And finally, Mr. G. Fetty, you get the last word, my friend. And last question before you go. I know they're linked to Cyrus Allen and met with him before the draft started. If Skylar Bell isn't available, would you guys want them to pick him instead? I would like that pick. I thought it was really good at Cincinnati. I would like that pick a lot. I'd be on board with that. So, and I think Kevin and John, apparently you would be on board with it too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm nodding at least.
No,
No,
you're nodding off because you're falling asleep.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm fully awake.
Well, I am, but no. Look, I still don't necessarily trust
Pretend
them.
this is a cutlet, Sap.
Yeah. I met Tommy Cutlass last night.
There you go.
Yeah.
I still don't necessarily trust them when it comes to evaluating receivers. They haven't given us a reason to yet.
No,
But at some point they got to hit, right? Like,
yeah.
yes, I wouldn't mind it, but again, until you see it, Malcolm Mitchell is the last receiver I remember them
Right.
hitting on. Like,
Yeah.
it's a problem.
It is. But every squirrel finds a nut. So we'll see. All right, gentlemen, great job tonight. Of course, as I mentioned, we'll have full coverage of the Patriots draft tomorrow as well. And we'll be keeping an eye on all the local prospects and whether they get drafted. Of course, once the draft ends, then we still have all of tomorrow night to figure out where all the local guys are going between Kevin and I. As soon as we get any information from our sources, we'll definitely put it out there and break it. And we'll be reaching out to people as well. And again, we're wishing all the local guys that we've covered the last few years the best of luck tomorrow. They're great young men. We're excited for them. We hope they either get drafted or get to sign where they want and get their opportunity to play in the league. And a couple of last second comments here. Peter says, you guys are fun. Now, remember, we have players who didn't play last year. That is true. You're all right. Peter, again, thank you for the kind words, my friend. Really do appreciate it. Thanks for checking in again tonight. And finally, Mr. G. Fetty, you get the last word, my man. Ha ha. Back at you, brother. All right. That'll do it for this Patriots Pulse Day 1 and 2 recap. For Kevin Stone and John Sapochetti, I'm John Sarianides. We will be back with you later on today to talk more Patriots draft. But until then, sleep tight and have a great week.